Hey guys, Zelonius here. Welcome to another video on the channel. In today's video, we are going to be looking at all the classes on Lost Ark. Lost Ark is an amazing, huge game with so many different options and ways of playing it. And obviously, probably the most important choice in the game is what class are you going to play. You can see I've got lots of different classes. I really love this game. I've tried out lots of different characters. I love all the classes I've played. Every class seems to have its own unique identity, something about it that makes it different. And in this video, I'm going to go through each of the 15 classes that are currently available in the Western release as of March 2022. Talk to you about the strengths, the weaknesses, show you a bit how they play, and hopefully help you guys make a better decision when it comes to picking a class that you will enjoy. Let's get into it and look at the first class. So you create your character, you pick your class. So right now the class system has warrior, mage, martial artist, assassin, and gunner. But when you pick a warrior, you don't just play a typical warrior. Within each class there are subclasses. Some have more, some have less. Warrior has 3. We're going to start with the warrior. Naturally, most of the warrior, well, all the warrior classes are like big, beefy, kind of bruiser type characters, but they all do have the differences. So when you go in, you will go to the Tome of Prophecy, and then the options come up. So let's see the advanced classes. So the warrior is the class, but the Gunlancer does not have any abilities the same as the Berserker, neither does the Paladin. Each advanced class is basically a completely unique playstyle. So with the warrior, we have the Berserker, the Gunlancer, and the Paladin. So for each class, I'm going to show you each advanced class, a few of their abilities, and tell you what they excel in. So the Berserker is one of the highest damage classes in the game, but it's also quite a tanky class. You can see there its attack power is quite high, its defense is fairly high, but its mobility and support is not as good. It's one of the worst classes in the game when it comes to offering buffs to the rest of its team, which is quite desirable at endgame, but the Berserker does excel in some great ways. So you can see here, Berserker gets this massive chunky sword. That looks pretty cool in my opinion. Like, that is an absolutely huge weapon. Looks a lot cooler than some of the others. You can see here the Berserker's got some big looking attacks. On the class tester, you can't see all of the abilities. The Berserker's identity is called Burst Mode. So you fill up your Fury meter. Each class will have its own identity. That's normally in the middle bit here. You fill it up, and with the Berserker, you then go into your Burst Mode. And in your Burst Mode, you do quicker attacks, do more damage. Yeah, the Berserker basically, it's what it says on the tin. It's a big-ass warrior that does a lot of damage. Quite tanky for a damage class. But the warrior does struggle sometimes with long cooldowns and slow animations. These do get better in tier 3, but just bear in mind if you're leveling a character from 10 to 50, the warrior has long animations, but it has some pretty cool attacks. That's a bit like Garen from League of Legends. It's a pretty cool class in general, and one of the most popular. You'll probably see a lot of bots running around the early game playing the warrior, but you can see the warrior, not the most mobile class, but lots of cool animations. I think every class has pretty cool animations, fair. Decent AoE. I think it's a pretty cool class. I've not played it much, but I know a lot of people who do and really like it. It's pretty similar to a lot of other type of warrior classes in MMOs. Now the Paladin, we'll go for that next. The Paladin is the second character I leveled on this game. The Paladin, as you can see here, is full on support. The Paladin is the worst class in the game when it comes to damage. If you want to see big numbers and do lots of damage, the Paladin is not for you. It does fairly decent AoE damage. It's pretty good in Chaos Dungeons. I can get MVP in Chaos Dungeons quite a lot just through damage. But when it comes to single target, it's up there for the worst in the game. It's not the most mobile. It's not the least. It's got a dash. Its defense is higher than this in my opinion, because the Paladin gets lots and lots of shields and naturally has quite high defenses. It's quite tanky and hard to kill. So you can see there, the F button there, Holy Protection, gives a big shield. When you level it up, it can go to 20% of your max HP. It can also remove debuffs when you level the skill up. The Paladin has some cool looking animations. I think the Paladin in general has some of the coolest animations in the game. Out of the 6 classes I've played a lot of, I'd arguably say the Paladin has the coolest animations. It is basically a holy warrior. It has some damage specs, but the damage specs are a bit troll. They're not as good in general. It excels really on supporting your team. It can give shields, it can heal with one of its class engravings, and it also ups the damage of the rest of your team whilst being tanky and having a lot of survivability. If you want a support class that is tanky and can buff your team, Paladin is for you. Let's look at the Gunlancer. So the Gunlancer uses shields and gun lances from bombardment. I don't think I've ever played a game where there's a gun lance. So it's literally a gun that is also a lance. Pretty cool if you ask me. You can see that the Gunlancer is really high on defense. It's the tankiest class in the game. It has big chunky shields. It doesn't do crazy damage. It does more damage than that would suggest, in my opinion. It offers decent support in terms of shields to the rest of the group. I would say the Paladin and the Bard are the pure supports on this game, but the Gunlancer does offer decent support to the rest of the team with its shield. Very immobile. You can see when you press space by most classes, you normally dash forward. With a not Paladin, with a Gunlancer, you actually dash backwards, which is quite different. Might take a bit of getting used to that. So if I'm facing this way, rather than go there, it jumps backwards. I've not played the Gunlancer much, but that'd be pretty weird, I find. Gunlancer has lots of AoE. It's got lots of big skills in terms of that crowd control. It has a taunt. It's got a lot of what you can imagine. It's good at grouping enemies up. It's basically a very tanky class on a game that doesn't have tanks. The crowd control is quite useful. It's a very useful class to have in a group. They're very good at surviving along buff the team. I don't think it's the most fun class, but it's still got a lot of people who really like it. If you want to take a long time to die and offer good group versatility, the Gunlancer's for you. We are looking at the Mage class now. Now, I want you to just appreciate or laugh at how the Mage walks. I don't really get it. Look, they walk really weird. Like, what woman actually walks like that? The Mage class is locked to females. That's something that's a bit weird on Lost Ark that I hope they change moving forward. That different classes are locked to certain genders. You should be able to make a male sorceress, should be able to make a female, or male sorceress should be able to make a female sorceress. But it's just how it is right now. So if you want to play a mage, which is a bard or sorceress, you're going to have to make a female character. So we've got the Tome of Prophecy here. So we're going to pick our subclasses. So, like I said, there's two for mage. We have the bard and the sorceress. Bards use harps as their weapon. You can see here, bard is full on support. They have pretty good AoE radius. So bards are very good in chaos dungeons. They can do a lot of damage AoE in that. But bards are probably the worst damage in the game if you're building proper support spec on them when it comes to boss fights later on. Single target damage on bards is not something they're good at. You can see how low their defense is. They are the squishiest class in the game. So bard, if you get caught out, you can be in a lot of trouble. They can get one shot by a lot of mechanics. Bards are a lot less survivable than, say, a paladin. So bard and paladin are like the two main support classes we have on this game. The main differences would be bards have a bit more AoE. They, in general, I think can heal and give a few more buffs to the team. The shields aren't as strong, though, as the paladin would be. And they're not as tanky, I guess, as the paladin. So let's look at some of their abilities. So you can see here, we have the Serenade meter. You increase the attack power of your party when you press Z, or you heal them when you press X. The Serenade meter, you can fill up to 3 bars. Each bar you fill, the higher it goes, the better it is, basically. Bards basically play music, use a harp. They have some pretty cool animations. Like a tornado of music there. A lot of their abilities are named after types of songs. I think they're a pretty cool class. I've seen this type of class in quite a lot of MMOs, so it's pretty common. The Bard, though, like I said, squishy, decent damage at AoE, bad single target damage. Bards and Paladins, though, are very desired at late game content. Ideally, in a group of 4, you want at least one support. It makes a big difference. In an 8-man group, you're going to want 2 supports. So you're going to want, out of 4 people, you're going to want one of them to be one of 2 classes out of 15. So 2 out of 15, that's about 1 in 7 chance of having a Bard or Paladin. And there's only 4 spots. So a Bard and Paladin is more desired than any other class in the game. So if you want a good chance of getting into groups endgame, Bard and Paladin is for you. Let's look at the Sorceress. The Sorceress, in terms of raw out and out damage, is probably the best character in the game. But you can see, like the Bard, they have awful defense. Their support is pretty average. They have a damage amplification on one of the or two of their skills. The mobility depends on the spec you play. So the Sorceress, I know this class really well. It's my main. I've got it to 13.5.5. They have a form, their identity is called Arcane Rupture, which is the Z. Basically, you fill your bar up, and when it goes full, you can activate that and you do quick attacks. Your cooldowns are halved and you do a lot more damage. Or when you fill it to about a third of the way, you can, or 30%, you can blink, which is basically like that's their space bar. You can basically do that again, and it does damage to people. If you play one of their specs does a lot of damage, and makes this amplified and do a lot more. One of the other specs makes them do more consistent damage, but not as big bursts. It doesn't even let you use this, but it means you can be a lot more mobile and use blink. So it depends what spec you want. As you can imagine, though, with a mage, they use the elements. They do lots of damage. They use fire, lightning, frost. They have some cool animations. I really like this class. They have some decent self-protection, but you lack the damage if you do that. They're quite a different build when they play PvP, but they're pretty desirable in that. I think Sorceresses are one of the most popular classes in the game. I think they're up there for best damage DPS class in the game right now. I really like it. And yeah, if you want to do a ton of damage, but aren't worried about being a bit squishy, Sorceress is for you. Here we are now looking at our first class where they are split between genders. So for Warrior, you have to be a male right now to play a Warrior class. For a Mage, you have to be a female. For Martial Artists, there's 3 female advanced classes and 1 male. So we're looking at the female ones first. War Dancer, Scrapper, and Solfist. These are probably the advanced classes that, in my opinion, maybe people disagree, but I think they have the least differences. There's definitely unique differences, and if you play a War Dancer or a Scrapper, they're definitely different playstyles, but they're closer to each other than maybe some of the other advanced classes in the other classes will be. So the War Dancer, let's look at this one first. War Dancer use lightweight knuckles as their weapons. So the War Dancer is the martial arts class that I play. I really like this. The War Dancer was the 4th class that I made. I made it after my Artillerist, and I liked it that much that I've taken over my Artillerist with the War Dancer. So the War Dancer has some very cool abilities. The way that a War Dancer works is they have 3 orbs. It's your esoteric meter. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. But basically, you have these esoteric builders. So these skills don't tend to do as much damage. But what they do is they build up the meter. And when you fill up the orb, you have esoteric skills that can actually do a lot of damage or AoE and have some cool effects. So you use low cooldown, not as high damage skills to build up your meter. Then your big finisher skills you build up with a meter. One of the class engravings for the War Dancer gives you 4 orbs, so you can store that and have 2 at once. The War Dancer, where it excels compared to the other martial art classes, is that it is insane at group support. And by that, I mean it allows you to it allows you to buff your team lots. So you can give movement speed, attack power, crit resistance. You can lower the defense of enemies. The martial artist, out of any damage class, offers the most group versatility in the sense of it buffs your team a lot. It's not as much a support as like a Paladin or Bard, but it is really good at amplifying the damage for the rest of your team. It's fairly mobile. I think at tier 1 and 2, the War Dancer's not that good. I found until I built a lot of swiftness, my War Dancer was a bit of a struggle, but once I got the right setup, I got my class engraving sword, the War Dancer was really fun. So if you want a class that's quite spammy in the sense that it can use its abilities a lot, you want good group versatility. These are very popular at endgame because of all the buffs they offer. And you want a fun martial arts class, the War Dancer is probably for you. Let's look at the next one. This is the Scrapper. Now the Scrapper, you can see it doesn't offer that much support. Does it say the War Dancer? No, see, it doesn't say the War Dancer offers much support, whereas I think it does. I think the Scrapper is a little bit less squishy than the War Dancer. The War Dancer can be quite squishy. The Scrapper has bigger hits. It's got a system here that says consume stamina or shock energy to use skills. So it's like a yin and yang type thing that the meter's built up by the type of skills you use. I've not played this class much, but I know it's quite popular. I've heard that the Scrapper is very spammy, and by that I mean you can do lots of cool abilities that you can spam lots. At later game, it does a lot of damage and has very quick skills. It's quite fun, fairly mobile, maybe not as unique as some of the other martial art class, but a fun one to play. Reminds me a little bit of Vi from League of Legends. And then the last one for the female martial artist, the Solfist. The Solfist is quite well rounded. You can see just by its skill set there. It's more mobile than the other two classes. I really liked the Solfist when I tried it out a bit, but I ended up wanting the War Dancer for the group versatility. They use magical fists as weapons. You can see here that their identity is called Hype. Interesting name for it. Basically, the higher you get the hype, you can see there when you go over it, that's trade skills even. The higher you get the hype, the more damage it does. It doesn't seem to be letting me say that there, which is a bit annoying. But you can go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. Yeah, you can go level 2 hype lasts 40 seconds. Energy restores 81 per tick. Skill cooldowns decreased by 10%. Attack increase. So it gives lots of buffs to you. I think out of all the martial arts class, the Solfist is probably the hardest to play. It relies quite a lot on knocking people up and then doing damage like that. I think it has a higher skill gap than some of the other classes, but it's quite fun. You can't see the class here, but it's got a pretty cool... That's like a Lux ultimate, that. It's got a pretty cool ability where it gets a fist from the sky that slams down does damage. Solfist has some cool like magical meets martial art animations. I like it, and I think it's going to be a popular one if you kind of want a bit of a magical martial artist. Here we are with the Striker male martial artist class. Only one. Bit weird that there's only one. I think there might be more coming in the future there. They use a pair of light knuckles as the Striker's main weapon of choice. You can see here they've got quite high defense, so they're one of the tankier classes in the game. Pretty mobile, pretty good attack power, basically no support, group buffs, and not the best AoE. Quite an interesting class. So they use the esoteric meter as well. They might be the only class in the game that share one with another class. Obviously the War Dancer. I'm not sure if there is any others though. But the Striker does really good single target damage. Out of all the martial arts, it does the best single target damage in the game. It is super mobile. You don't get to see that necessarily with all the abilities here. But the Striker has a fun play style. Lots of single target damage. Not the best for groups though, in the sense of you're not going to be as desirable as some classes because you're just not offering the same versatility. But they do very good endgame damage on bosses. Like I say, quite similar to the other martial art classes. There's not a huge difference. But that is the Striker. If you prefer to play a male character and you want to play martial arts, the Striker's the only option. It's good, mobile, single target damage with decent AoE because pretty much every class in this game does decent AoE at least because of the need for AoE when leveling in Chaos Dungeons. Striker, try it out if you want a male martial artist. If you want a character that's really mobile with good burst single target damage. Sharpshooter, Deadeye, and Artillerist. I've played the Sharpshooter and the Artillerist. I've got one of my best friends who plays the game. He plays the Deadeye, and he's in tier 3, quite likes it. The Sharpshooter, though, let's have a look at it. Really high mobility. I don't feel it's like as mobile as that personally, but I can see how it's definitely mobile. The Sharpshooter's identity is filling up the Silverhawk bar. It's very quick and easy to fill this up, and it does give movement speed to the whole pie, which is good for mobility. So it offers pretty good versatility. Depending on the engraving you go for, you can either get more single target burst damage or more consistent damage. Depends what you're looking for. The Sharpshooter uses a bow and arrow. The Sharpshooter, one of the things that surprised me about the class is it's not the most range, to be honest. It has quite a lot of melee attacks, which I didn't expect. But it's got a lot of classic abilities that you'd expect. A lot of charge shots. It's very easy to play, to be honest, I would say. I don't think it's hard at all. It's a classic archer type hunter class that you get in MMOs, but also has a fair bit of melee. Bit squishy, but very mobile and good at getting out of situations. The Deadeye. Now, the Deadeye is a bit more complicated. I'd say the Deadeye and the the Gunslinger are two of the hardest classes in the game to play, mainly because they switch between weapons. So you can see, you press Z, you can switch between the rifle, which is like more like a sniper thing. The rifle does more long damage. I don't think the rifle's most popular with this. You can press Z again to switch to the handgun. I think then the shotgun, is it? Yep. The shotgun is the one that I think most Deadeyes tend to use a lot more. This is a lot of burst damage. The Deadeye relies a lot on back attacks, as in you need to be behind the opponent. But yeah, getting used to switching between the weapons quickly. You can go ZX as well, go either way. I don't think it's as easy. I think it gives you a lot more to think about. But yeah, Deadeye, as you can just tell by looking at its abilities how it plays, to be honest. Not my cup of tea, but it looks pretty cool. And then the last one, the Artillerist. Quite a unique character, I'd say. I say that, it's kind of like a really heavy, tankier, more like... It's a bit like the Sorceress, but a tanky gunner. It's weird. It has an absolutely huge weapon on its back. It doesn't show all of them here, but it's got some pretty cool abilities. The flamethrower on it's nice. You can move when you're doing that. It's got a lot of missiles. The Artillerist is one of the, if not the least mobile class in the game. It doesn't have any mobility. Its space is only every 10 seconds. But what it makes up for in that, its identity meter fills out and allows you to turn into a turret that gets a big shield on it. You can get an engraving that gives you up to 40% crit chance when you get to the end of there, which is huge. So the Artillerist does lots of crits, huge, big numbers on the damage, but a lot of its big damage abilities as well take a few seconds to activate, so you do have to position well, know the fights well. Quite an interesting one. I quite enjoy it. That's the male gunners. We'll look at the female gunslinger next. Here we are with the female gunner class, and there's only one of them. Only one advanced class. It is the Gunslinger. Gunslinger switches between 3 types of firearms, so somewhat similar to the Deadeye. Mobile, good attack power. Let's test it out. So that's the class identity. They can switch between these. And yeah, they've got the rifle, the handgun, and the shotgun. I don't think they're massively dissimilar to the Deadeye, but they do have a few differences. I think the Deadeye is more about the shotgun, whereas I think the Gunslinger's got a bit more about the handgun, and I think their long-distance rifle ranges are generally better. I think from what I gather, the Gunslinger tends to be a bit more powerful than the Deadeye right now in terms of the balance of the game. Also just depends if you want to play a male or female. These are pretty similar classes though. So yeah, there's the female Gunslinger for you. Here we are with our last class, the Assassin. 2 advanced classes in here, the Deathblade and the Shadowhunter. Both play quite different. The Deathblade is your typical like assassin type class you get on an MMO. So they attack with 3 weapons. This is probably the most mobile class of the game in my opinion. I don't think their defense is very good. I think their attack power is pretty good. They're probably the best class in the game right now in PvP. So if you want a highly mobile, very good class, that's going to be a nightmare for people to play against PvP. The Deathblade's good for that. You can see a lot of their abilities make them move about. So when you get used to that, it can make a big difference in your mobility. It doesn't really have many of their key abilities really here in the tester. One of their main ones, it's like a moon swirl. It's hard to explain. It's like a circle as big as this area here. It's very good in Chaos Dungeons. I often see out of all the DPS classes, the Deathblade tends to be up there for most MVPs. I think the Deathblade is really fun. I played this class to level 30 originally when the game came out. I didn't delete the class. I just moved servers because I wasn't able to actually get in on that queue. I was playing on Kadan originally, whereas I'm on Sirius now. They build up the Death Orbs, and you can see there the amount of orbs available when you activate them. The higher you are, the more buffs you get. Very fun class, and really do fit that rogue stereotype assassin. Don't have stealth like a lot of MMOs, but they're very cool. And then the last one, the Shadowhunt. I really like the Shadowhunter. It's one of my favourite classes that I play right now. The Shadowhunter has like demonic wings almost. Big chunky demonic like weapons. The Shadowhunter's like almost half demon, half human. The Shadowhunter's main thing is about the Shadow Burst meter. So a lot of your abilities are about getting this meter filled up. And when you get it filled up, depends on what class engraving you have, There's one that makes your demon form even better, and there's one that means you can't go to your demon form, but you do more consistent damage. So really depends what you like. I play the one where my demon form gets better. But yeah, honestly, I love the Shadowhunter. It's very good burst damage in the spec I play. It's fairly tanky, I'd say, because it heals back when it's in the demon form. I think it's quite a fun class to play. Got some pretty cool animations and quite different to any other in the game. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you stuck around to the end, I appreciate that. Appreciate if you consider liking, comment, subscribing on the channel every single day. New videos out here to try to help you guys improve at the game, learn more about the game, and hopefully I've helped you in your decision process when it comes to making a class. Every class is fun and viable in their own way. This is a game where, yes, there probably is some classes that are a little bit better than others right now, but it is very well balanced, and I don't see any class not getting any play in end game, high level content, which is great to see in an MMO. Appreciate you guys watching. Keep it spicy. I'll see you in the next one.